morning, happy Tuesday, happy tasty Tuesday, and welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you one of my favorite fall dishes, but it's a cold soup. It's called Vichyssoise, and it is a leek and potato soup. And I like it in the fall. It's great in the summer too, but I like it in the fall because it's a creamy, velvety cold soup made from leeks and potatoes and cream and some other good stuff. And it just tastes of fall to me. Leeks are a wonderful fall vegetable, although you can usually get them year-round. I identify them with fall and making turkey stuffing and other yummy things that we make in the fall. So Vichyssoise, a lot of people are afraid to try it because it's got that French name, that kind of complicated name. But you know what? It's not French. It may have been based on a hot potato and leek soup from France, but it was actually invented in New York City by a French chef who was working at the Ritz-Carlton. And he used the roots of his upbringing in France to create this beautiful cold leek and potato soup. So don't be afraid because it's got a fancy French name. It's really a very simple recipe. You do have to allow time for it to chill in the fridge. So let's get started. First of all, I have taken 2 whole leeks. I've already cooked them in butter. They are limp and really beautiful, smell really good. So 2 tablespoons of butter to my chopped 2 leeks. Regarding leeks, one thing that's really important is that you wash them multiple times. Leeks have this way of hiding little bits of sand and dirt in amongst all the layers. What I usually do is I wash the whole leek, then I chop it up really fine and I break those rings apart. Then I wash that again, lay them out on a towel and check them carefully. The last thing you want to do is bite into your beautiful velvety Vichyssoise and crunch down on a piece of sand. So make sure you wash your leeks extra special several times and then put them on the stovetop, 2 tablespoons of butter, and let them break down until they're nice and soft and smell really good. So now we're going to add to that about 2 cups of potatoes. Today I'm using Yukon Gold potatoes, which are one of my favorites. Again, they have a wonderful fall flavor. So I have a little more than 2 cups here. My Yukon Golds were a little bigger than usually I get. So I used 2 Yukon Golds, chop them up, in they go. To this, I am adding 2 cups of chicken stock. Use stock, not broth. You can buy the store kind. Or certainly if you make your own, even better. But this is 2 cups of store-bought chicken stock. And I am adding 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, now it goes onto the stove. I'm going to bring it to a boil. Then I'm going to reduce it to a simmer for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then I'll come back and show you the next step. So here we go. So, our Vichyssoise potatoes and leeks chicken stock has been on the stove for about 35 minutes on simmer. You just want to put it on simmer until the potatoes are breaking down really easily, and they are. So I've removed it from the heat. Now we are going to put it in the food processor, but I'm going to do it in 2 batches so that it gets well, for one thing, so it doesn't make a mess, but also because you want to make sure that it's really has enough room to really get smooth and velvety. So we'll start with about half. I did use some of the green tops of the leeks. Some people wouldn't do that, and that's okay if you really want the color of your soup to just be pure white. I like the flavor in the tops, and I didn't use very many tops, but I did use some. Same thing when I'm using green onions. I usually use some of the tops. I think they carry a really nice flavor. Some people also would use a white or yellow onion in here instead of 2 leeks. I think that adds just a bit of bitterness that I don't like. I love the sweetness of leeks, and I just want the leek flavor to come out in this dish. So that's how I do it. So let's pulse this. Smells nice. Oh yeah, it almost looks like, well, again, because I used some of the tops, it has a tiny bit of a green tint to it. It has just a little bit of the texture of split pea soup. But we're going to be adding a bunch of cream and milk to this, and that's going to also add a nice white color. So I'm just going to put this in a bowl just to wait. It is going to go back onto the stove. So I'll get most of that out. Back in goes our blade. And the rest of our liquid. Okay, our second half. Now we will parade. That looks so beautiful. It's one of the most appealing things about this dish is this velvety texture that you get. So back into our saucepan, because it's going back onto the heat. This recipe, by the way, usually vichyssoise is served as an appetizer or first course. You, of course, could eat it for your entire main course. But this recipe, as a first course appetizer, would feed about 6 people. So like 3/4 cup or a cup per person. So I'm sure I'm gonna have some extra, but we're having this tonight as a first course, just the 2 of us. And then I'm making some halibut to go on the side. And we're having some beautiful green peas. Okay, so there is our parade. I'm gonna show it to you here. Leeks and potatoes. And to that now, we are going to add 2 cups of whole milk and a little bit of white pepper, again, trying to keep the integrity of the color of the dish. Oops, that's probably more than I wanted. Ah, no, that's okay. Tiny bit of salt, and I'll test the salt on this one more time when we take it off the stove. So I'm gonna bring it up to a boil, watching it carefully, then I'm gonna let it cool, and I'm gonna add the whipping cream before it goes into the fridge. So the whipping cream actually isn't cooked. It's just incorporated after this is done. So stay in your kitchen while this is on the heat. It shouldn't take more than maybe 10 minutes. Our vichyssoise came up to a boil. I brought it up very slowly, stood by it the whole time, stirring it so that the milk would not burn. It took about 10 minutes. Then I turned off the heat and I've let it sit on the stovetop for about 30 minutes. And now it's nice and cool. So the next step is taking 1 cup of either half and half or heavy whipping cream, doesn't really matter. And in that goes. And I'm gonna test it for salt because I'm pretty sure I don't need salt. But now that I've added all the dairy, wow, that was so yummy. I'm gonna put the lid on this and put it in the refrigerator until it's time for dinner, and then I'll show you how we plate. Super easy fall dish with a fancy French name, vichyssoise. I'll be right back. We're back and our vichyssoise is done. It's been in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, and it's a really pretty lemony yellow color. And if you didn't add the tops like I did, it would be much whiter. So if you're really going for that classic white velvet, just leave the tops out and just do the white part of the leek. So I'm going to show you two different ways to plate this. And if you're having company, I would plate it a fancy way, the way you might have it in a restaurant, and that would be over ice. So this beautiful velvety soup into a glass bowl like that, and then placed inside another bowl, and we're going to add crushed ice all the way around it. Very classical way to serve. Looks really pretty. A couple little chives on top, and you're done. Your guests will be amazed. But tonight, we're just having this for our dinner, and so I'm going to serve it in brightly colored bowls because, again, it will make the color of this beautiful soup stand out. So in it goes. This is kind of an appetizer portion for us tonight because we're having fish as well, but it should be, I'm probably going to have leftovers anyway. So there it is in this beautiful red bowl. Vichyssoise, the soup that sounds French but really isn't, but it's a classic all the same. Leek and potato soup, very easy. I hope you'll try it, and I hope I'll see you next week for Tasty Tuesday. Have a great week.